Hello friends, we are going to discuss the remaining part of the changes that were done after the Sepoy Mutiny, and we will discuss how they were changed in the army and also how they were changed in the public services. So first of all, we will look at the changes in the army. So we find that the change in the army was necessary. Why it was necessary after 1858? Because we know that after in 1857 there was revolt. So there was Sepoy mutiny. When there is Sepoy mutiny, it means that there is some problem in the army. So it was very necessary. It was very expedient for the Britishers to change the army, and changes are always necessary. Something whenever something happens, so we have to change or we have to re-strategize our planning. So the same thing was done by the Britishers. They have changed the army, and it was necessary. Now, what the changes have done? They have the army of East India Company was merged with the Crown Army of Crown. So the army of Crown was merged with the the army of East India Company because East India Company was now dissolved, and the whole administration of India was taken care over by the crown system, by the crown. So also we find that since Sepoy mutiny has happened, so after 1858 it was very necessary. It was very necessary also because they were continuing the policy of suppression and exploitation. When you continue the policy of suppression and exploitation, when you are exploiting someone, or when you are suppressing someone, then naturally they will revolt. When they will revolt, you must have a something army to suppress that revolt. So it was also very necessary because they were continuing the policy of suppression and exploitation. Hence there was a chance of revolt. When there is a chance of revolt, then it means that they have to make a strong army. So they have changes the old form of the army, and also there was a chance of having a bayonets. So what was the objective? The objective was that the objective was that to prevent any chance of revolt, and also to have a strong bayonet in the army. Now next thing we will understand what were the several steps that were taken by them to make the army some more relevant, or what the step taken by them. So the first step that they have taken is that the very important step is that the domination of European section in the army of them. So how can we say that the Europeans were dominate in the army of the Britishers? We can say this by three factors. The first factor is that we find that the proportion of the Britishers and the Indians. So the proportion of Britishers is to Indians was still in the favor of the Britishers. So we find that there was one in the Bengal. In the Bengal, we find that the proportion of the army from Britishers to Indians were maintained in the Bengal is to 1:2. It means that there were for every two Indians there were one Britishers in the Bengal, and in the Bombay, where there was not so much chances of having a revolt, there was for every five Indians there was two Britishers. So we can say that the proportion was still maintained. Now, second thing is that the very important factor is that the geography, some strategical location and some important location were in the favor of the Europeans. It was completely in the hand of Britishers. So in some very important location, for example in the Bengal, and a very strategical location where there was very chance of having a revolt, it was mostly dominated by the European, and some strategical location was in the hand of European. Also, the third thing is that the artillery and the tanks, the artillery and the tank, which are very important for any army to have a strong army, these were exclusively in the hand of Europeans. So we can say that the very harsh word has been written that it was exclusively in the hand of Europeans. So it means that if you look at overall, we find that the dominant position was held by the Britishers in the army. Now they have done for the Britishers' purpose. Now we will see how the Indian section was maintained. it means that they have attack on the two side. The first side is that they have attack on the European one, and second they have attack on the Indian side. They have maintained the supremacy of European, and they have lowered down the supremacy of Indians in the army system. How they have lowered down, we can see in the Indian section. We can say that just look at the word. Yes, the previous policy of excluding the Indians from the higher post, the previous policy of excluding the Indians from the higher post was still maintained. It means that the Indians are not allowed to rise at above some level. For example, till 1914, we find that any Indians cannot rise above the rank of Subedar. So Subedar was a last post for any Indians till 1914. So it means that we can say that after 1958, the higher post was still in the monopoly of the Europeans. Now the next important thing that they have done is that the organization of Indian section in the army, the organization of Indian section in the army was based on balance and counterpoise. What this means? It means that they have made the army in such a way that the army was still divided. The army was divided on the basis of caste, religion, and also there was division on the basis of martial race and the non-martial race. What is martial race? Martial race is the race which was said by them, which was said by the Britishers as the race which are superior as compared to another race. And for and non-martial is the race which was inferior as in the eye of Britishers. So there were two type of division, and they have placed the army. They have placed the army in such a level that they can both of them can balance each other. It means that what if there is some revolt in one section, they have placed in such a level that one can one another caste or another religion can balance the uprising in the army. Now the third thing is that the very important thing that we can say is the Indian regiment were made of a mixture of various castes, religions, and communal and regionalism, and so that they can balance each other. And this is somewhat similar to the previous one, that they have maintained in such a way that some caste, for example, in one post they have maintained, if we can say, for example, in the army they have maintained the caste 1, caste 2, and caste and religion 1, religion 2, and also regional wise divisions. If they have divided in such a level that if there is revolt from one caste, then caste 2 can oppose it, and so we can say that there was balance over each other. That is we can link this example to a very important quote that was said by Charles Wood wrote to the Canning. Charles Wood wrote to the Canning that we should design the army in such a way that if one section puts an arm over another, then another section of the army would be capable such that it can balance the another one. So this was said by the Charles Wood to the Canning. So we can say the importance of all these factors. Now the very important factor was that all the steps that were taken by them means the domination of European, the Indian section means not allowing them in the higher post, and balance and counterpoise, and also balance each other from regional casteism and regionalism in such a way that they have taken all the steps so that they can isolate them. And also for isolating them, they have banned the newspaper, they have banned the media newspaper and pamphlet, so that the voice of nationalism does not reach them. So they have planned in such a way that nationalism cannot reach to the army, because if nationalism reaches to the army, then army will revolt it. When army will revolt it, then the whole idea of suppression and exploitation will be end. So they do not want that. Who do not want it? Britishers do not want that. So if you look at all these, the cost of maintaining such a huge army, was very costly. How can you say that it was very costly? We can say that, for example, In 1904, the cost of the army was 52% of the total revenue. It means that total revenue, out of total revenue of 100%, out of that 52% was given to the army, because the idea of having such an army, idea of having such a huge army was very costly, and we can say that it was roughly 52%. So it is very huge. Also, we can say that, and why this was very costly? This was very costly because, see, we have to look two things. The first thing is that why and what. Why we have, what we have discussed, that what is very, why what is very costly. We have shown an example in 1904 it was 52%, and we have to look at why it is very costly. It was very costly because the idea of such a maintaining such an army of the British was to serve multi-purpose. The first purpose was that they want to defend the India from the nation, from the another nation, from the European nation. The European nation example, Germany, France, Russia, because these are developing countries. These were just want to develop. So they have to maintain. The idea was that to defend the India from these countries, because they also want to control the India, because India has a raw material and also market. So they want to defend them, but they want to capture them. So they have maintained an army so that they can defend India from these countries. Now, second thing is that, as we discussed also in the previous videos, that the policy of the Britishers was, during that time, during 1858, we have discussed, after 1850s, the new industrialized nation. The industrialized nation was emerging. When the industrialized nation was emerging, it means that the Britishers has to do what? They have to consolidate. We have discussed in the previous video. They have to consolidate and what? Consolidate and expand their territory. So to consolidate and expand their territory, they require army. So for that purpose, for expansion in Asia and Europe also, they want, not Europe, Asia and Africa. For expansion in Asia and Africa, they require army. So the army was very costly for that purpose also. Now, third thing is that maintaining such an army was a guarantee of a British rule. I can quote an example. The example that was given by let me yes, it was in some other example. The example is, the thing is that, if you have a strong army, then you can always guarantee a rule over any country. So this was a plan of the Britishers to maintain a better army. So we can see that the army of the Britishers was serving multi-purpose. So for that multi-purpose, to serve these purposes, the army of the Britishers were very costly. So I think this is clear. Now the second thing is that how the public services got changed. See, public services, we know that the civil services. What is civil services? Civil services are the bureaucrats. They are responsible for implementing the policy. So if you have better public services or better civil servants, then your policy will reach to the down. So when policy will reach to the people of the country, then it means that the making of such policy is successful. So for that purpose, the importance of public services is very very useful. So we can say that. So the importance of public services or ICS at that time was very important, and we can see the importance of ICS from the fact that till 1853, when the company was under the control of the Britishers, of the British government, that they were not ready to hold they were not ready to left the monopoly over the civil servants, because if they are not ready to hold the monopoly, they are not ready to left the monopoly of the civil servant, then we can say that the civil servant was a very lucrative job. So now the public in 1853, the competition was not open. It was not open. So in 1853, the first time the open competition held, and it was announced that now open competition will be held, but it will held in London. So in 1863, the first Indian who who qualified as ICS was SN Tagore. SN Tagore, Satyendranath Tagore. Yes. Now this success was a huge success, but it was negligible. How can we say that it was negligible? It was negligible because the exam was still conducted in the London, and the medium of the conduction, medium of the exam was English. We see English is a very important language also. In 1853 or 1863, almost at that time, English, the medium of the exam was English, and we can see from present time also. Not very Indians, not we also speak very good English. So we can see yes, we can see that. So we can see the importance of the toughest level, the level of the exam at that time. Also, and now the very important thing is that the exam was also testing the knowledge of the Greek and Latin language. So these classical Greek and Latin language also tested by the Britishers to qualify the ICS. Now the third thing is that very important, the age limit during that time was in 1878, the age limit was up to 19 years. Means if you want to qualify ICS, you will have to be less than 19 years. So we can see the toughest level of the exam that was conducted during that time. Now yes, now why all these type of what we can say these type of idea was done by them. So we will discuss why they have used these hard rules. They have made these hard rules because the first thing is that all the power and responsibilities was given to the civil servant. So whosoever be the civil servant, he will have all power and responsibility, and also the big post was held by the civil servant, and they were Britishers. So they do not want that any Indian would come and rule over us or rule the highest post. So to exclude the Indian, they want to exclude the Indian. So to exclude the Indian, they have made open competition to show to the world that look, we have open competition, but inherently they have made the exam so tough that it was almost impossible or almost very difficult for the Indians to qualify it. So they have made all these criteria because to exclude the Indians. And we have discussed why they have done this, because all higher posts and were in the hand of Britishers. Now third thing is that the preponderance of the British supremacy was not accidental. It means that they have maintained what we can say. Yes, we can say that the preponderance means the initial thought of the Britishers to have supremacy over the civil servant was not accidental. It was the plan that was made by them. And why they have made such a plan? Because it was very essential. They have made such plan because the essential condition of the ruling and monopoly on the defeated race was because of that preponderance. Means if you want to rule over the defeated race, who were the defeated race as defined by the Britishers? Indians were the defeated race. So they said that if you want to rule over the defeated race, then you have to make a stronger post of civil servant in the hand of yours. If you have the monopoly over the higher post, then it means that you have a condition to rule over the defeated race. So, or if you look at all this factor, because of all these factors, they have made the exam so tough. So now we will discuss the relation with the princely states. So now how the policy of the annexation of the Britishers changed during the So how the relationship of the Britishers with the princely state got changed after the 1857 revolt. See, the relationship is bound to change as the time changes because the relationship depends on the interest. And interest is bound to change. Interest is bound to change with the time, and when time changes, it means that interest will change, and when interest will change, then the relationship will change. So as we know that before 1857, the time after 1857, the time got changed. When the time got changed, the interest of the Britishers with the princely state got changed. When interest changed, the relationship with the princely state got changed. And because of this, we can say that the relationship of the Britishers before 1857 was different from the relationship after 1858. So we will discuss how the change, what are the changes that were done during that time. So the first thing is that the reversal of policy of the policy with the princely states. So initially they do not miss any opportunity to capture the state, but after 1858 the policy of annexation got reversed. So they said why they have reversed the policy. That they have reversed the policy because the first thing is that the princely states were loyal during the freedom struggle. During the revolt of 1857. So when they were loyal to the Britishers, so it means that they must be rewarded. And second thing is that they have helped or aided the Britishers during the revolt. And we have also discussed in the previous videos that how they have helped the Britishers. So because of these two factors, because means that first they were loyal, second they have helped the Britishers during the 1857 revolt. It means that they must be rewarded. So what they said, we can quote a very beautiful line of the Canning. The Canning said that the princely states acted as a breakwater during the storm. It means that when storm occurred, so whosoever helped you, whosoever helped you are your friend. So the Canning said to them that during the revolt of 1857, they act as a break storm, means they have helped us. So it is our responsibility to help the Britishers. So to help the princely state, they have to change the policy. They did not want to help the princely state, but they wanted to have some. They wanted to capture increase their holding on the princely state. So for that purpose, they have changed the policy. Now, how they rewarded the princely state? They rewarded the princely state by saying that the right to adopt the heirs were accepted. Initially, we know that by the doctrine of lapse, by Dalhousie, we know that the right to adoption of any other heir was rejected. It means the Dalhousie said that if you adopt some another heir which does not belong to you, then we will annex your state. So we know that it has been done to Jhansi, Awadh, and etc. and other states that were annexed on the basis of doctrine of lapse. But now the doctrine of adoption means they have given the permission that you can adopt any another heir. This is the pronunciation of the heir, not the higher. Now, second thing is that they said to the princely states that the territorial integrity is guaranteed for the future accession. It means that for the future we will be guaranteed that for in the future your state will be guaranteed. It means that we are not going to annex your state in any near future or in any future. It means that they have given assurance to the princely states that you are going to rule in the coming future. So it means that they were rewarded by the Britishers. Now now they have changed the policy. So what was the new policy? The new policy was that a new status of the princely states was defined in two factors. The first factor is that before 1857 they were theoretically sovereign, means that we know that some states which have adopted the policy of subsidiary alliance, they were theoretically sovereign, but the right to interference was done by the Britishers. So after 1857, they promised to have a continued existence. Means, as we discussed the previous one, also means that they promised that you are going to rule in the near future. Means that your state or your ruling, your state will not be annexed in any future. So annexation policy of the Britishers was rejected, and they said that they promised to them that you are going to rule in the future. The third thing is that the right they have said, but in spite of all these, they said to them that look, if you want to rule over the nations in the future, then you have to accept one policy. The first thing is that you have to accept the Britain as a paramount power. So when you accept the Britain as paramount power, then we are going to we are going to give you the promise of continued existence of your state. So in for that, why they have done this, because they wanted to have the capture on the market in the name of development of the princely state. And second thing is that they have an eye over the they want to have an eye over the popular movement, because as we have discussed also in the previous videos, that after 1857 the national movement got initiated. So they want to they want to have an eye over the popular movement, because they do not want any further revolt, because if any further revolt would happen, then it would have led to the finish of the empire of the Britishers. So to have an eye over the popular movement, they said they said that you have to accept the paramount power. So we have discussed the relationship with the princely state. So I hope it is clear that how the policy of Britishers got changed after the 1858. So thank you very much.